So in this video, I'm going to continue showing you guys examples of how you would graph inequalities. So this is part C of the example. In this one here, notice it's just an x. So anytime we have just an x and it's an equation that equals some number, in our case, this is a -2 is the number, you are going to need to draw a vertical line. And the reason why is because there's no slope here, there's no y-intercept. So this intercepts it on the x-axis, so we're going to go to the x, and we're going to mark it at -2, because this says x is greater than or equal to -2. And we have to use a solid line to draw our vertical line because this has an equal sign. So we're going to draw ourselves a solid line. And because this is an inequality, we're not done yet. Remember, the third step is to shade to show that it is an inequality and it's covering all the numbers. So here's what I mean. Here is the line that represents x equals -2. But this equation says x is greater than or equal to -2. If that's the case, do you think I need to shade right or left? Think about it. Numbers that are greater than -2 are on this side. That's like 0, 1, 2, positive numbers are all on this side. If x is bigger, I need to be shading on the right side. And there we go. So that's how I would do a problem like C. Let's try a problem like D, where you just have the y's. So this is the case where if you just have y equals some number, in this case 5, you're going to be drawing a horizontal line. And that's because you don't have a slope here, so you're going to have a flat line or a horizontal line at y equals 5. So I'm going to draw it at y equals 5. And again, this is a solid line because there's an equal sign here, so I'm going to draw a solid horizontal line. And now I have to think about the shading. Should I shade above or below it? So this y is less than or equal to 5. So numbers that are less than 5 are like 4, 3, 2, 1. Basically all the numbers below this line. In that case, I have to shade below this line. And there we go. So hopefully that gives you a better idea on how we shade for inequalities. So when you're graphing an inequality, you need to show the line. Depending on the inequality signs, you need either a solid line or a dashed line. After that, you need to shade either above the line or below the line. All right, let's take a look at absolute inequalities and how you would deal with those situations. So for example 2, you're going to be sketching absolute inequalities. And let me just say that this is very similar to graphing just inequalities in general. So this is going to feel very similar to what we learned from the previous videos about graphing absolute values and also what we've learned in this video. So for this one here, this absolute value has a -5 on the inside. So if you remember from last time, if you have a minus on the inside, that means it's shifting right 5. Now there's nothing outside of it, so there's no shift up or down. And so in this case, I am going to be shifting right 5 from the origin. So that would be right here. Plot my dot. But remember, absolute values need 3 points to graph. To make that V shape, you need 3 points or 3 coordinates. To get the second and third coordinate, you use the slope. So in this case, the slope is a 1 in front of this x. So the slope is 1 over 1. So I have to go up 1 from the vertex and over 1. And then I'm going to go the opposite direction to help make that symmetrical V. So I went up 1, but now to the left. Now, once I have my points, I'm about to connect the dots, but I have to think about what type of line to draw. Do I draw a solid line or a dashed line? Well, in this case, this inequality doesn't have a line. So I have to draw a dashed line. And I'll extend this one a little bit further. So now that I have my absolute values, as you can see, this one's going to the right, this one's going to the left. I either have to shade above it or below the line. But which one do I do? Well, let's take a look at y. So y is bigger than this equation. If y is bigger, that means we want to shade towards the bigger y's, which is in this direction. If I shade here, I'm going to get all the negative y's. So I don't want to do that. So I have to shade above because the inequality is facing towards the y. We want bigger y's. So we're going to be shading above. And there we go. All right, let's do B here. So for B, again, this is an absolute value inequality, so figure out the shift. Now notice there's no shift on the inside. There's not a minus or a plus sign on the inside, but we do have one on the outside. So outside means either up or down. But because we have a positive sign, this means that we're going up 2. So from the origin, you're going up 2, which would be right here. Plot your vertex, and you're going to use the slope. So in this case, my slope is 1/3, which tells me that I have to go up 1 over to the right 3 units, which would be right here. And then I have to go the opposite direction, so up 1, but now to the left 3 points, or 3 units. Now I'm about to connect the dots to make my V, but what type of line do I use? Well, this one has a line underneath, so I need to use a solid line. So I'm going to connect the dots using a solid line. And so from here, I need to do my shading. So with my shading, we have to ask yourself, is y bigger or is y smaller? Well, in this case, y is smaller because it's saying that this equation's bigger. So if y is smaller, think of y values that are really small. Those are like negative y values. So that's like down here. So I have to shade below this line to represent the negative y values or the smaller y values. If I shade above, that means that's all the big y values. That's going to positive infinity for the y's. So in this case, I am done. If you guys want to strengthen your skills, try out the practice problems to help you practice the concepts that we've currently learned. Bye, guys.